So today we're going to talk about motion capture cleanup. Who here has any experience with motion capture at all? Yeah. Okay, so come on. Oh, is this thing, is PowerPoint just crashing now? Okay. All right, now we are. So, note about programs when it comes to motion capture. There are two basic programs that use it. One is Motion Builder, which is a purpose-built animation and motion capture tool. It's really good. I like to use it, but it's kind of old, it's kind of crusty. But you also have Maya, which I'm assuming y'all are more familiar with. Maya has a lot of robust animation tools, including motion capture with human IK. And if you don't know where human IK is, you go to, all right, Maya, so popping up. Human IK is under animation editors, and there's a window. You go to window, animation editors, human IK. Again, Mobu was purpose-built. Maya is something that it can do as well. I don't know anything about Blender when it comes to motion capture. I've been screwing around with Blender. I'm not a fan of Blender's animation tools, but a lot of people use it and it's free, so you use what you got. So when it comes to motion capture and production, you can boil it down to three things. That is capturing the data, and we have the Makerspace has its own motion capture studio. Not going in on that, that's a whole another thing. Transferring the data, which is putting that data from wherever you get it. It could be from a motion capture studio. It could be from Mixamo. It can be from another thing. You just transfer it on there. The thing that I have up here, they essentially just captured one bit of data, one dance, and they put it on all the characters. Now, it's not as easy as you just kind of slap it on, because there's a lot of things that may happen. This is Monster Hunter. They use a lot of mocap on there, and you can see the Palico, they have a lot of funky proportions. They have them big hips, they're really short, kind of stocky, have a big head. Now, the production team is very good at kind of keeping track of what they need to do for that, and the actor is also very good at, hey, I need to do this, I need to hit these poses, and I can't be doing X, Y, and Z because the character's proportions don't work with that. Like if you see it, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, like his arms kind of clip into his big old cat thighs. So if you are doing motion capture, be sure that your actor is aware of the proportions of the character, or the proportions of your actor match the character. I'll kind of go into that. Come on. Here. So this is an example of editing motion capture data. This is something that I did when I was on New World. New World's expansion and console port is out, so I'm clear to show some of my work, where you can see I have the raw data and my cleanup. And you can see that the proportions of this character and that character just don't line up for reasons. I can tell you because I was having issues with the motion capture data, and I asked my boss, it's like, hold on, was the actor, yeah, no, the actor was like 5'0" nothing, 100 pounds wet, doing animation for a character called the Brute and the Tank. So there was a lot of trying to fix that problem, because a 5'0" nothing, 100 pounds wet woman is not going to be moving in the same way as a 6', 350-pound dude. And you can really tell, I can't really show it, I'm not showing it here, but I have some walks that there's like the first walk where it's just whatever, and then the second walk, which is like, you need to walk fatter, do a fatter walk. And they're going, and it sucked, and I had to completely change it. But with motion capture, you can completely change things. So it's not just fixing proportions and creating a clean loop or clip, what have you. It's also adding little extra flares, because one of the things that were noted about the data is, all right, they're dying and they're kind of catching themselves as they're going down. But it's like, no, we want them to look like, oh, they just got like hit and they're like dying. And it's like, okay, I'm doing this thing where they're reaching out before they completely collapse. And I cut out some time so that the actual fall is quicker. There's a lot of things you can do with that. One of the things that I will say with this is that motion capture in general, a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of the people here and in the industry, they treat motion capture as the solution. They have all these animation pipeline issues. So, hey, this is going to be this silver bullet. We don't need to animate if we just get all the motion capture working. We can just motion capture it all. All of our animation woes, motion capture. It's not how it works. You have to build your production pipeline to motion capture. And that requires a lot of sacrifices in what you can do. It requires a certain design and production ethos. And from my own personal experience, motion capture is both one, it only kind of gets you on a good day like 30% of the way there. There's a lot more work you can do, but you have this economy of scale where it's like, hey, we have hundreds of animations and they all get 30% of the way there. Oh, that's a lot. That's worth it. And I totally agree because I've worked on productions like that. But there's also a thing where motion capture, especially the capture part, is only as good as the data because it's like, oh, that'll get everywhere 30%. But if that data is just bad, if there's just problems that happen, then okay, you're fighting that data and it's just easier to motion, just do it by hand anyway. At the worst, motion capture is useless. At kind of in the mid-range, it's just a highly expensive reference for the animators to use. So again, it's really cool. I highly suggest that if you're going into the industry and you're like, I want to do motion capture, go into the makerspace, try to get some hours on the capture system, and also learn Motion Builder because I got hired at Blind Squirrel Games wearing the colors because I just learned Motion Builder. That's one of the main reasons. It's like, hey, do you know that? I'm like, yeah. It's like, all right, get in. It's a whole situation. Now, let's talk about human IK. If you are making a rig for your character, it needs to be motion capture ready. And human IK is a system that motion capture uses. It's in Maya. A lot of the same sort of system is in Motion Builder, and a lot of the same ethos is used by other 3D programs. I was looking up, apparently Ubisoft's, one of their main engines for animation is just, yeah, we used human IK and built it all off of it. So if you have any like things of like, how do you do that? What's human IK? How do I make it ready? What's happening? There's this video, Maya, how to apply mocap to any rig using human IK in Maya. And there's Dobby from Harry Potter. I will send you this video because this video has like 80% of the answers you're gonna need. So that's just for that. I'm not gonna play the video, all of it, but a lot of it is oh, never mind. Yeah, we'll just go to this other slide. Yeah, no, here we are. So this is the human IK window in Maya. And you see your outliner with all these joints or bones, whatever you want to call them. The thing about human IK, the thing about all of this is that all of your joints should match up to have like just a regular human skeleton and all of that. But the problem is that every program likes to have their own naming convention. So what do we got up here? That's a whole bunch of ribbon spines and all of that for the joints there. But it's like, all right, this is right arm upper or whatever. So arm, upper, arm, lower, or whatever. Unreal might call that just arm, and this, the lower one, arm 2 or forearm or whatever. And everyone has their own little naming convention. Everyone has their own little thing that they want to call it because that makes sense to them. I don't really know which one's which. I don't know which one's good. And a lot of the people who are doing their own animations, making their own rigs for the first time, sometimes they'll call the right arm upper bone or joint, whatever, joint number 36, because they're not doing a naming convention. They don't have everything named right, and they run into problems because of that. So what Human IK does is you have to characterize the data by looking at the skeleton and then just going in and saying, this bone is that bone on the skeleton. This joint is the head for this character. That joint is the leg. That joint is this part of the leg, yada, 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 what have you. You also need to make your character into a T-pose, because all of these joints, especially when you get into like motion capture, they have their own channel box data. So in the channel box, there's like translation X, Y, and Z, and then there's rotation X, Y, and Z. You need that translation data for the joints because it kind of tells you where they are in relation to like the parent or world space. Because it's all this sort of parent-child relationship. If you've done like any coding stuff, there's inheriting and all of that. It's essentially, it's like, okay, if this is the arm, I need it to be like 10 like translation data, whatever, away from the shoulder. And then this needs to be 10 away from that. That needs to be there. And I'll show you what happens when you zero it out later. But all of the rotational data, that needs to all be 0. And if that seems confusing, and you're like, okay, I don't understand what's happening there with all this stuff with the bones, that's why if you ever come to me with animation problems and I check your rig and you're animating just on the bones and there's no controller for your rig, I'm going to scream at you. Because that's why we have controllers. We have all of the stuff to kind of show where it's like, all right, we can rotate this controller 10 degrees or we can move it 10 units this way. And they can all be 0. And we don't have to deal with this at all. That's why controllers are good. But I believe, yeah, let's go to Maya. So as we come into Maya, I'm just going to open up. All right. All of this stuff. Not now. All of that. And I have a file that I'm going to show you how to clean up. So where is Mocap demo? I think, yeah. Kick CC. I believe I already cleaned a lot of this stuff up, but for sake of brevity, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that will happen. So can y'all see that? Can y'all see the skeleton? It's blue and all of it's gray. Can y'all see that? Is the color balance good? All right, cool. So this is how it should all look in there. But if you don't actually do it, I'll show you what it would look like if you just slap some data in there. You have the actor hit a T-pose before you start capturing. It looks like that. It's a T-pose. That should work, right? Because let's go to the channel box. Let's look at that. Oh, we got some rotational data on there, and it's doing a lot of stuff. Now, if we go to frame 0, all right, it's all there. That's the clean T-pose. That's what you want. And what you can do with that, let me just open up the skeleton. If you go into Maya and you need to open up your thing in the hierarchy because everything's nested and parent and child and all that, there's all these like pluses over there, like right next to this. If you just hit shift and then click, it opens everything up. Now, the hips in motion capture cleanup are special. You have to treat the hips correctly. Everything else, who cares? So I can just select everything here. And let's just zero out that rotational data and just select all the rotators up here, the X, Y, and the Z, hit 0. I said hit 0. Oh, there we are. We go from kind of awkward to straight, but the hips are kind of their own thing because they have other stuff going on. Let's do that. Let's just do the same thing with the hips. And 0. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. So you kind of need to make sure there's a lot of things with like rotation because there's like the Y up, Z up stuff. I remember a couple times I was doing this demo, I was kind of fighting that. We're not fighting that. So I'm just going to go in for Y and Z, and we're good there. And then X, we're going to just hit a nice 90. We're straight, we're good. Now, I'm talking about that translation stuff. We kind of need to put everything onto origin. So let's just put everything onto origin. And remember when I said, hey, don't trust translation data? Here's what happens when you don't respect translation data. Let's hit all that translation data to 0. Not good. So all of these joints, all of them, those are the ones we're not going to touch at translation data. But the hips are special. We need to screw around with that. So I'm going to go to translate X, 0, and translate Y, 0, because this is spit out a Z up file, and we're in a Y up program. It's complex. And then for translate Z, I'm just going to, I think that's good. We're solid. We're amazing. So let's actually go into human IK. So we have create character definition. And we have all of these bones. So you just kind of go in and hips, assign selected bone, spine, assign selected bone. But we have more spine. We have spine 1, spine 2, spine 3. So we need to go in and we need to add some extra spine. And you see these little drop downs to spine view, and there's all these like to right shoulder view. It really depends on what your capture is and what your rig is. You can have multiple spine joints, and depending on how much you actually want the bend, how defined you want everything. There's a whole thing with, where are we? I'm just gonna use this. There are twist joints. Oh, that is a bad marker. In the arms and the forearms and all that kind of track certain rotational things that keep things from getting all deformed and all of that. So those are the sort of things you can add over here where you see to right shoulder roll view, and you go in there. That's what you would add. But we don't have those in here, but we have multiple spine joints. So to spine view, spine 1, oh, we got a spine 1. Add. Spine 2, we got a spine 2. Add. Spine 3, we got a spine 3. Add. All of that. And then we go to neck view. We got a neck. We got a neck 1. All of that. And it's one of these things that if this seems tedious, it's because it is. Not joking. A lot of, we got shoulder view. The shoulder is in here, and there's one of those drop downs. And you can kind of see you can have some extra deformation if you want, but we only have one. Yeah, no, a lot of the way motion capture and animation is just a tedium and making sure the tedium just works for you. So I'm doing all of this. I'm not going to go in with all of the hands because that's a lot. The data that I have here, there's a lot of joints for the hands because I can do a lot of stuff with the hands if I want to. Sometimes you just kind of get these mittens and that's fine. It's okay if that's what you need. A lot of motion capture is figuring out what you need for your scene and doing just that. This is helped by the fact that I have mirroring on, and I also have uh, auto keyframe toggle on right down here next to the running man with the gear icon, which means every time I do something on something that has animation data on it, it'll just automatically make a keyframe. I don't have to go in and hit S to make a keyframe all the time. It saves you so much time. So much time. It's nice. So, keep going, dealing with all the tedium and all of that. Now, I could go in and define more and more and more and more and more if I want to. But I feel like we're good here. And we have this nice check mark that says, hey, we're valid, we're successful, and I'm not doing all the hands and all of that. Yeah, whatever. There's no time. But I already set it up to being all T-posed and all of that. So it's all check marked, all good, all the time. If you go to another frame where he's not straight, he's not fully T-posing. Oh, what's happening? Hips don't seem to be facing the right direction, and the hands and shoulders aren't parallel with the X plane. Is essentially what's happening. If you do that, you'll get errors. There's another error I'll just show you. I'll just click on one of the hands. Which one is this? Left hand pinky. So let's say I'll put this pinky because it's near the end. Party foul. Assign. Oh, what's happening? Essentially, I'm connecting a joint that has no parent. It's a child, and it's like, hey, this is getting data from somewhere else, and I'm not seeing that data. Fix it. You'll get that little red thing and all of that. And if I want to, I can just clear, and we're good there. Oh, I have to go into the other one because we're mirrored. Clear? All right. And we're good. We have a cleaned and characterized bit of animation data. And all of this is just an FBX that gets spit out when you're using the Motion Capture Studio. Be sure that when you're using the Motion Capture Studio, especially that one because it's off the track, it likes to give you a .tac file. Try to figure out how to get it to spit out a .fbx file because we all run in FBXs in this industry. So before we go to other stuff, I have the character called character1. That seems confusing, and I just ranted about the whole namespace conventions. So I'm going to click on this, rename character. I'm just going to call this data. So we got data. Now we need a character. So I'm going to go into the reference editor, which is, for everyone who doesn't know what the reference editor is, you can import a file into Maya, but it just like copies that file into Maya and it bloats the project file. And if you do anything to it that needs to be changed, you're kind of screwed because you can't change it. It's in there. So when you reference something in, you're really just pointing to another file and you're saying, hey, I want to use that file. So I'm going to go into the reference editor, hit create reference, and I'm going to find my motion capture motion capture cleanup demo, open, and I have a rig that I got off of Mixamo, and I'm just going to reference that in. And if we go in here, we got the Mixamo Ninja. Now, say with the reference editor, I'm using the Mixamo Ninja because I'm using the Mixamo Ninja and all of that. And say it's, hey, we're changing it up. We're no longer using the Mixamo Ninja. We're using this, that, or the other. Or, oh, there was a problem with the Mixamo Ninja file. we need to push this update. If you just imported it, you're shit out of luck, just straight up. But if you reference it, then you can just hit, hey, re-import the reference or swap around the reference, and you're good. To be honest, that is how this workflow worked. They gave me this one, and it's like, yeah, just here's the new rig, just re-import it, and you'll be good. And it's like, all right, sick. Well, let's get to going. So we have our animation over there, and we have a kick that's just kicking. And our Mixamo Ninja isn't ninja-ing. That's not good. That's not good at all. So, not even yourself. So, what you need to do is you have the character, we have Mixamo Ninja, and we have a source. So, essentially the way all of this works is, again, parent, child, parent, child. We have the parent, which is our data, our kick, and all of that. And we have the child, which is our T-posing ninja man. We need to put the T-posing ninja man onto the kick. So we have the character, the Mixamo Ninja, and the source, which is the data. And ba-doop. Whoop. Yeah, we're kicking, we're doing it. But there's a lot of things happening. One, I didn't put on the hands, so it's just going to be kind of weird. But also, for the proportions of the Mixamo Ninja and the data, it kind of sucks. He's chopping himself in the throat. That's going to have to be something we figure out. So, but first we need to actually like make it so that it's edible. Editable. So I could just go in and, oh no, where's a good one? Left arm. I could just go in and ignore what I told you and start boning it. But that doesn't seem like a good idea. What you need to do is you go up to this blue Vitruvian man and you see a lot of things like bake. And when you bake animation, that will just take all of the animation data that's happening and then just put a keyframe onto every little thing. So I could bake all of this kick data, all of the data onto the Ninja by going bake to either skeleton or bake to control rig. And that will create a new rig and we'll just put all the data on it. So I want to do that. And whoop. And it'll do all of its things. Will that do the entire thing for the entire animation clip? Okay, hold on. There we are. It did not do it for the entire animation clip, so I need to do it again. So let's go to 1,000, because I cannot remember how long this clip is. Hold on. Ooh, I like that kick. I think I'm going to use that kick as an example to show you what's happening. So let's go to bake to control. Hold on. We're going to go to data again. And we're all moving. So let's go to bake. Let's actually highlight that part that I like. So we're like 820. And when does it start? Not there. So like 750. So let's go up here, bake to control rig. Nice little clean kick. But whoop, what is happening here now? Oh, guess we can't do that because of all of the other data. We need that T-pose. Yeah, a lot of the animation cleanup process is just trying to figure out how, like, all these little pulleys and levers, and it's all very finicky. If it's like it's not working, well, yeah, it's got to figure it out, man. It just sucks. It's all tedious, and it all is kind of hacked together. Welcome to making a game. So back to control rig. Whoop, whoop, and it's doing its thing. Okay. Are we? Come on. I believe in you, Maya. Oh, please don't. Please don't crash right now. Oh, ah. Yeah, there we are. So let's just do a little something here. If you are working with this rig in general, there's a whole thing when you're working with definition. There's a whole thing about creating custom rig mapping. So if you already have a defined rig, you're not using the standard issue Maya control rig, which is it's fine. It's okay. You can go in and define the controls for it here. Now, this system essentially, it's like we're making all the controls, it's all working. But if you don't do that and you just define all the bones and then you try to bake it and all of that, it's not going to work because all those controllers are influencing how all the data moves. So if the controllers aren't mapped, but the data is moving, it all just kind of you don't like it. So with this situation, I'm just kind of creating the rig and it's creating all the data and it's creating control rig as it's all working. But if you have your own custom rig, that's what you would do. It's included in this video. This is the video that I will send to you if you have a lot of questions about Human IK. But we have a situation. Let's put X-ray on and we can see, and we're going to hide that skeleton. We have our boy. And his rig works. So now we need to clean up this data. We need to get his 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 hand out of his throat. So, hello everyone. Due to a recording thing, we have to do this part of the presentation again. But hey, that's fine. I can do this in my sleep. So we have our kick. We have our animation data. The clip is on our Mixamo Ninja. And now we need to just clean this part up. We've done the transferring. We've done the characterizing. Now it's time to take this motion capture data and bring it to the extra mile. So if you look at this loop, it's all right. It's okay, but it's not the best. You can see some clipping with the character's hands. The actual thing that's probably the worst is uh, the starting pose and the ending pose are not actually synced up, so you have that jump. And we don't want that. We don't want that clipping. Like that, that is not good. His arm is in his throat. He has fingers coming out of his eyes. Not great. So we need to clean that up. Now, the way we do that is with animation layers. So if you go to your channel box and you see display, usually you see this, and this is where you would put like a reference. Maybe you would put other stuff that you want to just toggle the visibility of. That's fine. Animation is where it's at. So we need to create a layer or create a layer from selected. And how we do that is by going over here to the outliner and selecting everything that we're going to be animate, which is the entire character's rig. Let's turn on X-ray joints, and we can see the Mixamo Ninjas control rig. And we click create layer from selected, and we have anim layer 1. And I'm just going to go in and call this loop, because we're going to create a loop on this layer. Now, one thing I kind of want to get ahead of, this is the default Maya control rig, and you have all these yellow things. They look like bones, but they are not bones. They are effectors. They're totally different because Maya likes to be difficult. It's great. So what we need to do first, well, actually, what do we need to do first? Let's see if we can get rid of that clipping first. So let's start by just moving everything out of the way. I don't know, make a better pose over here. That seems to be good. Let's kind of move it. Oh, what's happening? What happened there? That seems to be not the best pose. If we go over here, well, if we go over here and mute this layer, it's because we made this one pose and it is affecting the entire loop, and we don't want that. So I'm going to delete that. Delete everything. Are we still doing it? Okay, yep, nope. Gonna have to completely start from scratch. So let's undo everything. And we're still chopping the throat. So it seems like the first order of business is actually to make it so that we have the parts of the animation that we like. Because I feel like this whole kick, that's fine. We don't have to touch that at all. So when does the stuff that we need to touch and the stuff that we don't need to touch start and end? So let's find that. I feel like we're good, we're good, we're good. And here is where we're starting to chop our throats. So maybe 805. Let's select everything that we added to this layer. You can just right click, select objects, and it's everything. 805, we'll just hit key, and we're fine. And then we want to do a lot of edits on 820, so let's key that. Now we need to find where our edits are going to start. And I feel like here we got a lot of stuff, and yeah, we're chopping the throat. That's not great. I feel like here is where everything is actually okay. We're good here. So let's hit a key on that, and then on 750 we're gonna have to do some stuff. So we have in this part all of this data. All of this is fine. We're probably not going to touch that, or if we are, we're not going to touch it a lot. It's this part and this part that is going to be the subject of our current attention for the loop. So if we go over here, we need to get that fist out of his throat. So that should just be pretty simple. We're selecting the arms, we're moving the arms, all of these effectors, not bones, effectors, and not the fingers itself, but the full hand. And we can probably just like, oop, change out certain things. Now, if you didn't have hand animation and I wanted to do hand animation, I can do that here, but I'm not. So I'm just going to say that that's fine. Now, let's go here and here because I have auto keyframe on because it's all already keyframed. We're having that animation and we have a nice, cool loop. Now, if we come over here and we hit mute layers, yeah, he's just kind of saluting. He's saluting into his eyeball. But if we loop it back, oh, we have this kind of interesting little subtle happen. That's just kind of a happy accident. And that happens all the time when you're cleaning up motion capture. I think I'm just going to keep that. I'm not going to really do much to make that go away. So I feel like that's cool. And we have our pose that we want to start and end on. So what we need to do is copy this pose at 820 to this pose at frame 750. So that involves doing some stuff that is kind of frustrating in how specific it is, but it's very powerful. So I'm going to select all the objects. I said select objects. Okay, there we are. And we have everything selected, and it seems like it should be relatively simple. Why not just go over here and we can copy a keyframe and we can paste the keyframe over here. And we got some stuff, but not all of it. We changed, I don't know, maybe the arm. That's not it. That's not all of it. Okay, so what are we gonna do? All right, maybe if we can do something where we can move around keyframes, like all of that, and it'll change up. Why don't we do that? So why don't we just shift drag and nothing happens? Well, that's not cool at all. So it's very frustrating, but there is a solution. You go to the keyframe that you want to select and you middle click. Now, if you notice, as I move around in the timeline, or scrub the timeline as it's called, we're seeing that motion, but when we middle click, we're not. Middle click, middle click. And we can just move that. And we go to 750. And then we hit S to key it. We're all nice. And we have animation here, and it's the same pose. So that means, nice, we have a clean loop. Let's hit play. Okay, what's that happening? What's that little whoop? I don't like that whoop. I don't think we should have that whoop. What is that whoop? When does that whoop start and when does that whoop end? Oh, it's when we have our edits and when we stop having our edits. There's things happening here that I don't like, that I need to get rid of. And this is one of those things about motion capture cleanup. You're essentially kind of playing whack-a-mole because every time you do a thing where you have that little settle and you're like, ooh, I like that, you have a little something that's like this bit of skating, the skiing, whatever, that I don't like, and I'm going to have to go and change up. So let's fix that. First, let's diagnose what's actually happening. So from frame 750 to frame 77, The hips and the feet are just kind of moving, which makes sense. So we need to figure out a way out of that. So if we find something, feel like here, the hips are fine. They're where they need to be, but it's over here that they're not. So if we hit, say, like S here, and we do the same thing, middle click, drag, click. All right, that seems like it's pretty much staying consistent, but we have them feetsies doing feetsy stuff that I don't like. Now, there is a whole situation where the back foot, where the kick is happening, that needs to move, but not at that point. So maybe around here, when it's taking off, is when I would be fine with it moving. Maybe around frame 765. Yeah, no, that's fine, but I need that to stay around that point while it's all moving. So let's try to figure something out. What if we find a place where the most motion is happening, and then we can make our edits, and all of our edits will be hidden by that motion? So if we go here, we middle click, I think it was like frame 165, and we hit S, we're all good, we're all good. And then all that motion is happening, and it looks like that's what it's always been. Looks like we didn't even do any editing at all. All right. And that seems like it's a good idea. So why don't we do the same sort of thing over here with the front foot? Because there's all that motion happening, and then it kind of pops up. I don't know. Why don't we just kind of copy, then paste it here and see how that works? Because, okay, there's that motion. That should all work. What if we just move it over here? What'll happen? Okay, that looks bad. Not a good edit. Let's just delete that. It's fine if you don't get your first edit on your first time. It's all about finding the solution. So if we look at what's happening, we're kind of raising our foot up and then planting it. And that plant seems to be okay, but there's some motion happening. So what if we move that back a little bit? No motion happening. That's pretty good. So now we have this part where we're lifting the leg up and then stepping down. That's good. Maybe it's this part, the lifting the leg up, that's the problem. So maybe instead of trying to plant something that we want to be planted, why don't we move something in a way with that motion? So why don't we, I don't know, move this up, move this around, move this a little bit. Now, instead of trying to fight to keep something still, we're moving it in a way where the motion is hiding our edit. And let's see how that all looks. Okay, almost. But there's a little something else happening here. And this is more advanced animation. This is more just animation techniques, uh, mirroring with motion capture. Whereas we're lifting up the foot, that's fine. But I don't know. If I try to hit this pose in real life, I'd fall over. I need to move the hips back. I know we moved them before, but we need to move them again. And you know what? That's fine. Right there, I think we need to kind of move them back a little. So let's say as they're moving back, sort of pivoting and moving his weight. Oh no, he's crouching a little too much. Why don't we move him up a little bit? And that looks much more like an actual sort of kick. Now, there's a lot of things I can do, like I can come in here and sort of maybe compress the spine or what have you, do a lot of stuff with the arms to sell that motion. And I probably could do it. And if I was going to do this for real, I probably should do it. But I feel like we're fine just with this. And we have a complete loop. So let's look at it just as a loop. I don't know, maybe we can just do a little extra thing. Okay, yeah, that's fine. You can tweak all of this all day. I don't have all day. You don't have all day. But you can see the vision. And that's all you really need to get out of this. So we have our loop. Let's just take a little gander and see how this looks without the loop. Already, we're seeing that clipping again. It's not cleanly looping, but if we loop it back, well, there's some stuff that we can probably clean up, but it's still a loop. We're still pretty good. So now what we can do, we have the loop. This, we can probably do some things to clean up. Maybe we can make that kick more powerful. That would be on another layer for ease of use. So I'm going to select all the objects again. We have everything in our outliner selected. So let's create a layer from empty, or create a layer from selected and all that. And we have another anim layer one. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to call this plus. First, we loop the animation to clean it up. Now we're going to plus the animation to clean it up. So, like we originally did, I'm going to go in and select all the parts that I think, yeah, we're good. We're not going to really change all of it all that much. Maybe we want to change that part. Maybe this part, we're good. And here, we're good. So stuff in here, and maybe stuff in here, we might want to change. But all of this, yeah, we're good here. So we can do some things with this to try to plus it up. Maybe we could move a knee. We could move a leg. And all of this is stuff that we kind of already did move around in the other layer. There's nothing about affecting one thing on multiple layers. But even just that changes that animation so much. Maybe we could do a thing where you sort of compress the spine a little bit. Move that back. Sort of move that. Just kind of crunch it a little bit. Good old-fashioned squash and stretch techniques. Let's just see how that looks. Already looks like it's more intentional, like he's not just fully leaning back. And now let's pay attention to that kick. So Not the coolest kick. Not the coolest. We can do things to this to make it look better. Like, why don't we change up some of this to make it look more interesting? Kind of changed up the upper body, make that look pretty cool. And now, as we move this, we can straighten out the leg and maybe push it a little farther. So let's see how that looks. All right. Maybe we can add a little more. Maybe we could add stuff to this to make it a little spicier. And again, a lot of this is just finding the bits and bobs to make this seem more powerful. And again, a lot of this becomes playing a game of whack-a-mole, because every time I do one thing, I might need to do a separate change. And it's all just kind of looking and seeing what's happening. I just kind of did a whole bunch of stuff, and there's still a whole bunch of stuff that I could keep going on. But I think that does a lot just in this. So I think we had a more powerful kick. Let's actually see what happened. Let's go to plus, mute that. All right. We straightened it out. Let's see if we can add more power to it. So we look at plus, and you can definitely see that we changed a lot about the power of the kick. We kind of added a lot more bend to it. We did a lot to that, and then we can go to loop, mute that, and oh, all that clipping, all that looping happening. We changed, I think we changed a lot as we kind of look at all of it. All right. So that is how you do a basic motion capture cleanup pipeline and a workflow.